Hey bees, I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and today we are making the second Christmas holiday soap of 2016, and this one is a Winter Wonderland bar. So I'm trying a new technique here, and full disclosure, on camera was the first time I've tried it. So I wanted to get some nice distinct layers, and so according to my sort of YouTube foo research, what we need to do to start to do that is to bring the soap to trace in parts. One trace for each layer. So this is a 5-layer soap, and so what we're going to be doing is dividing it into 5 parts. We'll take 1/5 of the oils by weight and 1/5 of the lye water by weight. We'll bring that to trace, and then we'll add 1/5 of our essential oil blend and then the color blend for that layer. Blend that together and pour that into our mold. Now ideally this will still be a fairly thin trace, and because it is, it will settle into the mold quite smoothly and evenly and flat, and will give us just a naturally flat top, assuming your table is even, which I discovered mine is definitely not. But I digress. We will then do that again, and in the time that it takes to bring layer 2 to trace and blend in the colors, layer 1 in the mold should set up enough that it can withstand having layer 2 poured on top of it without giving us a really big divot. I was mostly successful. I still like the way it looked. Definitely gonna have to play with this technique some more though. The essential oil blend for this soap is a really nice one for winter. It's crisp and cool and clean. We'll be using minty but soft spearmint, cool, clear cage put, and just a hint of warm vanilla benzoin to give us a really lovely, unique winter scent blend. I finished these bars off with a little bit of a glitter topping. If you don't have glitter but you have mica, you can absolutely use that instead, or you can leave the top naked or perhaps sculpt it up into some sort of really neat design. Okay, that's enough of me talking. Let's go make some soap. Okay, let's dive in. So this recipe requires quite a lot of prep. So here I have my mold all prepped, so I've lined it with some parchment paper and I partitioned it out to where I need it. So because of how my mold works, and the dimensions and plans for this are up on my blog, and I'll link to it below. For every inch of the mold, this mold will hold a 100-gram batch of soap, which I realize is potentially the most Canadian thing ever, that hybrid there between grams and inches. So here you can see this is 7 inches of mold, and that's because this here is 700 grams of oil. And so this will hold the 700 grams of oil that's been turned into soap, not just 700 grams of oil. So there's that, and we can set that aside. And then for our pigments, so this is going to be a gradiated layered soap. So here I have our 5 different colors for this 5-layer soap. So all of these contain titanium dioxide and then varying amounts of indigo powder, which is here. And you can see indigo powder is this beautiful deep blue hue. You could also use blue ultramarine if you don't have indigo. It is kind of hard to find and kind of expensive. So our pigments here, each one will be getting blended into 1/5 of the soap. And here we have our essential oils. So this here is a blend of spearmint, benzoin, and cage put essential oils. I also have my recipe right here. And so what's important here are the amounts of each of the fat and the lye water that we're going to be measuring out. So in order to try and get some good even layers with flat divisions, what we're going to be doing is blending up and bringing the soap to trace 5 times in 5 parts. So let's dive in here. So I have a scale here, and I have a 4-cup Pyrex measuring cup. So I'm going to turn that on, and we're going to need for each 1/5 140 grams of our melted oils here. And 73 grams of our lye water. So tare the scale. And now we're going to bring this part to a thin trace, and then we will add 1/5 of our essential oils, and we'll add our first pigment. Grabbing a piece of paper towel here to set the immersion blender down onto. we'll add our first pigment. So we're doing this in the order of the lightest color to the darkest color, because that makes for the easiest process and the least amount of cleaning. So we need about 8 grams of our essential oil. So because this is a pretty thin trace, it's settled down nice and flat on its own, which is why we're doing this in steps. So as we make the next color, that'll set up a bit. So when we gently pour in our next layer, we should maintain a flat divide. So a large part of the reason we're using a Pyrex cup here and not a pot is for its pouring spout, which allows us to pour the soap down over a spatula to help give us sort of the gentlest impact on the layer below it. Turn around, make sure we're getting that back corner here. I'm just gathering this up and then we'll repeat that. We don't want to leave a bunch of batter in here. This is where it would be extra helpful to have a second pair of hands. So there you can really start to see how having quite a thin trace is important so that we actually get the settling out that we're looking for in order to get those nice flat layers. So now that we've got all of our layers poured, in this little cup I have some glitter mixed with some soybean oil. And this is not mica, this is straight up glitter, cosmetic grade from TKB. And so we'll kind of drop that over there. Give these a little bit of doodling. All right, well, all that's left to do now is to cover this and leave it to saponify for 24 hours before slicing. So it has been about 24 hours and I am beyond excited to cut into this soap and see how it looks. Our first sneak peek, it's looking pretty good. So I have a damp dish towel here that I'm going to be using to wipe my knife off in between cuts so we make sure we get nice clean lines. So let's partition this off. That's about half. Now, because of the glitter topping, I'm going to cut these from the side so that we don't drag glitter through the bars as we slice them. Remove the parchment as well. Here you can see our layers. You can definitely see that. I don't think my table was quite level. You can sort of see a little bit of bowing here, but they're still much more even than soaps I've made in the past have been. All right, and there we go, some Winter Wonderland soap. I love the way these layers turned out and I can't wait to play with this technique some more. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and check the description box below for the link to the full blog entry on this post so you can see the recipe all written out as well as all the instructions. See you next time.